What's up, guys? How are you doing? Welcome to AzimioCast episode 3, and I'm your host, Christine Ger.
And I'm your host, Umi Harun. This is a political podcast you did not know you needed.
Juliet Nyabuto in the building. Hoop, hoop.
So we have a very brilliant lady on the show with us. Her name is Honorable MAYAKA from County Assembly in Nyamira County. She's a special elect. Welcome to the show. She has so many titles, so we'll let her take us through that.
Thank you very much, Umi, and I'm glad to be here. Should I do the ooh?
Yes, you can. Please.
Go for it.
So guys, before we go any further, today our topic of discussion is single parenting and motherhood. Now, Christine, let me ask you a question. What do you think about single parenting? What's your idea of single parenting?
That's a good question. Okay, so my understanding, single parenting is like a person who's raising a kid. They don't necessarily have to be the mother of that child or maybe the father of that child, but maybe you can even adopt, or maybe it's your child, but the other person is not in the picture. Let's say, they might be in the picture actually, but they're not present. So you're raising the kid by yourself. Like most of the time you're with the child. Yeah, so that's single parenting to me.
But single parenting, even like from different setups, there are kids who are raised by the community. Where do you place such children, you know?
Where I come from, they say that ni mtoto wa kila mtu, like ni mtoto wetu as a community.
Or
because
the same way they say mtoto ni wa jamii,
Yes.
si mtoto wako.
Yes.
So if your child messes up, the community has.
Yes, is responsible for that. So Rene, where you come from, how do you see this single parenting?
It's sort of more of what you said, yeah? Like here is a child and they're living with either one parent and the other one is absent completely, or they don't live in the same setup as a child. And by that I mean that they don't see each other on a daily basis, not in the same house. Or you are adopted a child and you're living with a child alone. Yeah, so single parenting could be either of that. Yeah.
And I mean, growing up, is there any of us who was raised by a single mother or a single father, or?
I mean, I think for me, I can talk about the kids, you know, like from my culture, Somali culture. If a child is, say, those parents have separated, anakuwa mtoto wa your family. So, like, you realize you end up, like, for me in my household, we've raised so many kids who are not my siblings, but then I consider them my siblings because, you know, responsibility we just took over. So it's, I think, depends on different people as well, but there are those kind of children.
And if I may ask, do you feel like a child who's raised in a single family where it's only either a father or a mother, does it affect them mentally, knowing that my friend, let's say, let me use the name Kasim, has a dad, I don't have a dad. My friend Juliet has a mom, I don't have a mom. Does it affect them in some way? Because you know there's co-parenting and then there's the single parenting. Does it affect a child?
It does. I'll give an example of the earlier days when my son was young, and in school, of course, there'd be all this conversation of my dad did this, my mom did this, and that sort of thing. And one time I was called to school because someone was telling my child about who their dad is. Their dad is a pilot and all that. And he was like, my mom is a manager. He manages. So the other child went to crying that, oh, this one is talking about their mom, and yet me, I don't have a mom. Yeah, and for him, his situation was, I have grown up knowing what my mom does. So we were both called in, and it became a conversation of, you know, your children need to, you know, measure what they say to each other and all that. And these were really young kids. Like he was 10 years old. And they're like, how do you start doing that? So for the children, it could be that the situation at home is in such a way that the child never feels that gap. But when they're out there with their peers, they start to realize, by the way, where is my dad? Where is my mom? So how you handle that situation is what makes the whole difference. Because I always say it is never the child's fault that the other parent is not in existence. And in most cases, it's not the parent's fault, because it could be that they're separated, or the other parent is dead, or they just don't elewana. So you see how you as a parent bring up your child and the sort of mood you show around the child and how you raise their child is what makes the whole difference. Yeah, so that energy can quickly transfer to the child if you're not showing them positivity around them. The child should never ever feel like there's a gap, there's something missing. As a parent, you should always be able to cover that up for them.
So like you're saying, this is like a conversation parents have to start having with kids from when they're young, though. Ukifika shule wasishtukie guy where.
Yes,
Why
yes.
don't I have a dad? Or, you know, and it's that age for like 10, 8, 9.
Yes.
That's a curious age.
Yeah,
you know?
that's when they become most aware. So you just need to, like, I remember when it was for myself, what I did is, I mean, my son was surrounded by my male relatives a lot before he started knowing his dad. But what I used to do is I would always tell him, yeah, like every time you'd ask questions, I would answer. Don't hide, because I see a situation where there's a friend of mine who used to tell the daughter that your dad died, and then one day she came to know the dad, and she grew up hating the mom because of lying to her. So you just tell the child. So when my son eventually met the dad, and he was like, so what can I ask him? I was like, just have a conversation with him. Let him, you know, let him engage you. And now they have a good relationship. Like, they talk to each other. They're good friends. They're in each other's life. And I don't interfere with that. I don't try and tell him that your dad is a bad person. No, we don't have that conversation. Yeah, we just have a healthy co-parenting relationship, because we both realized this child needs to have a balanced life. Yeah, and this is a boy, and boys are very different. As a woman, you can't give your son everything. There are things that he can only have that conversation with from a male perspective, and if it's not with the dad, then it can be with the grandfather or the uncle, and sometimes there are women who don't even have that as well. So what I always say is, if you are a single parent and you're the father and there's no female figure in your child's life, ensure that either your relative or a close friend is associating with that child, and the other way around, so that they do get to know and understand all spheres of life, and then they get to have a balanced life.
Yeah, I feel like that one is at least ideal when that's more like when there's a parent, like there's one parent that is present. Yeah. So I know of someone who they grew up, they didn't know who their father was, and their mother didn't raise them. They were raised by their grandparent, like great-grandmother. So later on in life, when they grew up, they started having issues, like just mental issues, because they felt like every time they've been rejected. So it came later on in life, it did catch up with them. So it started affecting them. Then they also got a kid in the process. They became single. Like, it's just something that if it's not dealt with immediately, it comes back later to just, affect someone. So I think that is something that the community, the parents, like if you're a single parent, you should touch on.
Currently, I mean, I can talk about our country because I don't know much about outside, but you've seen how mental health has become a big thing.
Yep.
And then if you look at the population of single parents in Kenya, like children who've been raised either without a mom or a dad, could that be that then it's like a bubbling from that, the whole childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Like you grew up without a father, a mother, maybe someone lied to, like, the example Honorable Rene has given. Could be the feeding points for mental health.
And I also feel like, as much as, yes, the kids are important and their mental health should be considered, I also feel like if I'm the mother, I'm the father. If I'm the father and I'm the mother, vice versa. I feel like also these single parents need to like get help, because I know they're facing trauma, because you're doing this, you're alone, you have your kid, katikati usiku mtu ataamka, it's you have to go to work. When your child needs the dad and the dad is not around, it's you and it's only you. Probably if they've passed away, you have to help them with the grieving process. It's only you. I feel like also parents need help,
some help,
and also children need help. And I feel like in Baba's government, through the 10-point agenda, which Rene will take us through, I feel like such things have to be considered. I know that they're there, and I'd love the audience to understand what is there that for the single parents, especially.
And
I think
Baba keeps
yeah.
talking about it, you know, in almost all the rallies.
Before you go to that, to the 10-point agendas, whatever you've mentioned, I just remembered I have someone who's very close to me again, and she's raising 2 kids. And one thing I realized that is when you're a mother to 2 kids, you're trying to provide for them. So sometimes you don't even find time to hang out with your kids. And it got to a point whereby it was affecting the son, who's now the firstborn, because at some point they were staying with the dad, then the dad, I mean, just left or something like that. So when the kid came to visit me, like I felt that, like, then the mother used to tell me that, okay, I think he's acting like this because he's very happy about the space because he used to do these things with the father. So there's that gap where, as much as there's a single parent, yes, they really do need help, even if it's just from family members, whoever it is. If you have if you're out there and you have a friend who's a single parent, please just do something to them. Like, just try and reach out to them and just help them.
Support them.
Yeah, support them.
Yeah, before we even get into the 10-point agenda, because I feel this is very important to say, is that a lot of people suffer from mental health unknowingly. Yeah, you could be going through issues, but because you're piling it up and you feel like if I start telling someone else about my issues, everybody, kila mtu ako na shida. But what I normally encourage people is get into focus groups, yeah, so that you know that you're not in this alone. There are other people who have equal problems. Sometimes just have tea and laugh about it, and and then seek out what solutions you can have to your problems, because usually the problem is not only financial, it's also just the fact that you're feeling alone and you're feeling like, why is this happening to me? Like, I'm seeing, okay, this one is not married. I'm seeing like so and so is married and they're having a happy relationship.
Yeah.
But sometimes even in those marriages people go through a lot of stuff. So talking about things and just having a focus group really helps. Yeah. So
I mean, speaking of like people who, on a lighter note, I came across this famous Instagram couple. I won't mention their names, but no, I won't mention names.
Give
but
us
then there was a whole drama, like I think last 1 week, of them separating, and these guys have a business together. They're like the power couple.
we have that
So
tea.
maybe I was shocked. I'm like, guy, kwani those things that they start questioning. You start questioning how effective it is, because it really got me thinking. But anyway, let's quickly come back to the 10-point agenda.
Yeah.
I know you guys have seen Baba has a 10-point agendas, and there are a few things, key pointers for single mothers, healthcare, parenting, everything that has to do with our day-to-day social lives. Could you take us through that? Which is that particular agenda that speaks to you as Honorable Rene, but also which one do you think benefits women, mothers, mental health? And before you respond, I want you to maybe explain to us if under the agenda for healthcare, is there a plan for like mental health medications in hospitals? Because the current NHIF plan doesn't
have that. All right, so of the 10-point agenda, I think the ones that really speak closely to the kind of help and what Baba thinks in terms of single mothers and just women in general is, number one, Baba Care, because when you have a sick child, it becomes something else. Your life is just thrown all over the place. So I feel like that solution in terms of just ensuring that you have that insurance that doesn't worry you about, so what next if my child is unwell, and enhancing the NHIF. I think that's one of the agendas that really speaks to women. The other one is Inua Akina Mama. And in that, we have all these other solutions in government in terms of the Women Fund and Uwezo Fund and all that a lot of time, every time, like even in our own work, when you're doing public participation and you ask women, why are you not applying for this? Why are you not picking up this solution? And they will, most of the time, it's a question of that, one, they fear, kila mtu anaogopa madeni, I can take this money, do a business, and it doesn't work out. But I feel like this is something that a lot of civic education needs to happen in that space. Waste Not a Single Child, agenda number 6, is another one that is very key and very integral to women and single parents and everyone in general, because everybody wants to ensure that their child has an education. So that's also another one. And then there's also pesa mfukoni, the 6K. And why this is very important to women is because most of the time, it is the mother who knows that a child is hungry. I need to put food on the table for my children. We know about the Kalongo and Kadogo economy, where sometimes in some places in this country, people go to the market with a container so they can buy a spoonful of salt, a spoonful of oil, food, you know, it's hand to mouth. So this is a solution that will actually help them, because if you have 6K on a monthly basis that you're able to shop for food stuff, that is, I mean, before we can even start discussing any other agenda, you're already feeding a hungry mouth. Yeah, so for me, that is one of the most integral agenda, because majority of the people in this country, especially those in the rural setup, don't have access to this money. So out of all that, the 4 key agenda, Baba Care, Pesa Mfukoni, agenda number 1, Inua Kina Mama, and Waste Not a Single Child, those for me are most important, but even the others still speak directly to the women agenda. And I've seen Baba everywhere he goes, every time he speaks out there, he's always talking about single mothers and some of the solutions that he has for them. And I know as we get into the manifesto and 100 days commitment of his government to Kenyans, I know these specific issues, there'll be more meat added into it. I know a lot of people are coming on board just to come up with policies that are well furnished, succinct, and can speak directly to solutions that actually work. Yeah, and we know, I mean, Baba is someone who in the past he's spoken about solutions that he's actually given to this country, and they've been realistic. So I have absolutely no doubt that even now he will give solutions that are very realistic.
Yeah, that's really good, Honorable Rene. Thank you so much for being in our show today. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I think we've come to the end of this show. Thank you so much for watching. You can keep the communication going, like just type on the comment section. Let us know what you think about single parenting and motherhood out there. And yeah, so I'm your host, Christine, again, and
Juliet Nyabuto. Umi Harun.
and Rene Mayaka, and please vote for Baba on 9th August.
Yes.
Thank you.
Baba. And
Yes.
if you have comments about the 10-point agenda, put it down in the comment section. We might read yours in the next episode. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. And until next time, bye.